even until we finish the core stack size. So what is the solution? Do you think that there's a solution to this particular issue? But, no, say we want a recursive function for sure. We can't avoid that. In that case, an idea? Isuru? Okay. So we can do something like this. If you can remember earlier, we talked about browser APIs. Whenever we use set timeouts, it's going to create a web API call, and it's going to get added to the event queue, and afterwards it's going to get executed in a different context. So basically, whenever browser stack gets free, it's going to call that next one, and so on and so forth. So this particular Stack Overflow issue won't be there with this solution. Yeah. Event queue itself. So you mean the size of the event queue?
Yeah, something like in Stack there's a limit, right?
Yeah. Event queue, I don't know whether there is an exact limit or somewhat, but Stack itself has a limit for sure. But this particular queue, I haven't come across such issues. You can keep on adding things. Maybe like you can read a bit about the details of how it works. So that can be something that's something which we can cover in the specific session about event loop, where we will cover all the details of how it works. Okay, so what do you think is the output of this code segment? Snippet. Any idea? Okay, you all can guess. Yeah. What? Okay. 5,000. All right. 5,000, and we are calling it 5 times, right? 5,000. Okay, so why does that happen if that is the answer?
Yeah, the thing is, you know that the set timeout, that particular function gets executed after the call stack finish.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the graphic detector will take
Yeah.
the function from the message queue and execute. So within that time period, the loop finish.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so what you're saying is loop will be finished by then, and all the things, all the instructions to call the set timeout will be in the event queue, and at the time it gets executed, the value of this variable I will be 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct. Good guess. Nice. Okay, so that's it from the quiz session. Now we will move into the history of JavaScript. Sometimes this might be boring for you all who know JavaScript. I mean, have the basic idea of how JavaScript language is constructed and all the history details. So if you think that this is something which you know, you can move out. Otherwise, you can stay. Okay, so this guy Brendan Ike, he's the one who created JavaScript, and it was initially implemented in Netscape. I don't think anybody has used this particular browser. So he developed the language in 10 days, and why JavaScript is called JavaScript is because at the time when JS was introduced, Java was really popular. So they thought of getting the fame of JavaScript just by using the Java name in it, saying JavaScript. And there is no relationship between JavaScript and Java. Okay, JS was designed within 10 days, and that was the same thing which I've explained. And how does JavaScript gets implemented in all the browsers? Because as I explained way back earlier, there are a whole lot of browsers, right? And JS works in server side as well with Node. So uh, how does this work? Is it something like Java where you have a runtime and you give this runtime to all the browsers and they consume it and internally they use it? Or whether there is a spec of somewhat saying, okay, this is how the language should behave. These are all the features language has, and all the browser vendors and whoever uses it has to implement the JS spec and expose the language. So that is the way how JS is standardized and how it works. So there are a whole lot of browsers. Right now we have Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and so on and so forth, right? So all those browsers has an internal component called JavaScript engine. So that is an implementation of this particular spec called ECMAScript. ECMAScript is standardized by ECMA International, which is a standard body, and what they do is they provide all the rules. Say in JavaScript spec, how does the variable declaration works? How does the operators works? Everything, all the details into minor level, everything is documented over here in ECMAScript. There is a link, you can visit that and read about it. I mean, how everything works. If in case you have a doubt about a certain thing like whatever the functionality of language itself, then you can get a better idea. And if you are to report a bug to a browser, you can simply read the spec and see whether there is a mismatch and report a bug to a browser. And there are browser specific bugs as well, because JS spec is implemented by different browsers and different vendors. While they are implementing, they are all developers, right? They can again do mistakes. So in certain browsers, there are issues in whatever the language specific details. So if we take a look at the language evolution, uh, if we consider Java has versions, right? Java 6, 7, 8, and so on and so forth, right? Likewise, JavaScript again has versions. So this specification, ECMAScript spec, initially when it was born, it was 1995, first JS was introduced. At that time, we didn't have a JS spec. So what happened was all the browser vendors, uh, they thought JS is a really nice thing when it was introduced in Netscape. And afterwards, what they did was they thought, okay, in my browser also I want to implement this. I want to have such functionality, and they use different names. Now, JavaScript is there, right? So they can't use the same name because of proprietary reasons. So they just reverse engineer things, and they use the different name and expose the same language with a different set of features and some things which they wanted and so on. IE is one of the browsers who did that. So they saw that Netscape is really nice and they have all these cool dynamic features with in the web with this, and they implemented their own version. And uh, with that, what happened was Netscape and all the inventors thought, okay, this is not a good thing, because people will go on and create their own versions and rebrand it or use their own names, and they will keep on adding different features, and it's not again interoperable, right? If you write a site, uh, which is working in Netscape, now it won't work in IE because IE has a different standard of this scripting language, and it might be slightly similar, but they have their own features, and it is not maintainable. So with that, in 1997, they went to ECMA International and they standardized it, and with that standardization, they came up with a thing called ECMAScript, which I explained earlier. So ECMAScript has all these rules and all the features related to the language, and they initially released it in 1997, and they didn't do much changes until 1999. And in 1999, ES3 was one of the major versions where they released a whole lot of features, and then it became really popular. And if we take a look at 2009 ES5 release, that was one of the major releases where they added a whole lot of new things to the language. But then again, language was not that popular. That it was popular, but not that popular. It didn't have this hype at that time. But with 2015's release, ES6 language became really popular, and people started using it widely, and it exposed a whole lot of features like classes and whatnot, whole lot of features. And afterwards, what ECMA International thought was, okay, now that we have a really good, stable standard spec, we have to continue adding all these features yearly. So what they are doing right now is, in each year, now it was 2015 when they released ES6, then there onwards they released ES 2016, ES 2017, 18, 19, and so on. So recently we got the 2019 spec, and there we have some features. In ES6, ES 2015, we got a whole lot of features, and ES 2019 we got only few features. So this was one of the major milestones for JavaScript. And when I was explaining, I said ES, right? So ES was the conventionally used earlier for JavaScript, saying ECMAScript version number. But with this frequency of getting the language updated, it is kind of like mismatching the year, right? So in 2015, ES6 was released. In 2016, we have ES7. So it's a bit confusing when you look at the number to identify which year this was released and what all features are there. So they thought of going ahead with this standard where they use the year always, ES 2016, 17, 18, and so on. Okay, so I just want to give you a brief idea of what the spec says. So in 2018, ES 2018 was released, and it has these two major features, asynchronous iterations and rest and spec properties, and a few minor features. Likewise, in 2019, very recently, they released array flat and array flatnet and object from entries. So these are few minor features, but there are a whole lot of major features which was released way back in 2015. So now the problem is, whenever ECMA International or whoever builds this spec releases a feature, I mean, who is ECMA International first of all, and how do they even decide this feature should go live, or this feature should be available in the browser? So that is again one thing which I am going to highlight. So first of all, the question is whether all these things which are included in the spec, whatever the features, are they all supported in all the browsers? Right now we have so many browsers, right? And tomorrow you will find new other browsers as well, mobile browsers, desktop browsers, and so on. And even Node.js is also there. So sadly, the problem is they have their own velocity, and Chrome might implement all these features really soon, but some other browsers, they take a lot of time to implement, Safari sometimes take a little more time. So likewise, all the browsers, when you consider all the browsers, they all don't support all these features. Some features, even if it was released some time back, they still don't support it. They are lagging in supporting things because of architecture reasons and so on. But ideally, all the browsers should support these, and there is a gap between the spec version and browser support. So when it comes to browser support, whenever you are using a language-specific thing, say if you are using let, you all know let, right? Var is a way of declaring variables, and let is again one other approach. So we will cover all the details of what are the differences and types and all those stuff in one of the next sessions. So here, if you want to see the browser support of this particular keyword, you can see that it is supported in IE11, but it's not supported up until IE10. This is one thing which you should consider whenever you are selecting a language feature within your application, because if that particular keyword or whatever the syntax which is exposed via the JavaScript specification is not supported within the set of browsers which you are supporting, say your client is asking you to support IE9, then in that case, if you use that keyword, it won't work. So uh, Isuru is smiling because nobody supports IE9 now. Anyway, when we consider all the major browsers, now we support like almost all the cool new features, but there are a whole lot of features which are not available right now out of the box within the browsers. So this is a site which you have to keep in mind, remember, whenever you want to check the availability of that particular API. So that site is called Can I Use? I will share all the details with the slide deck. And again, you can check the same thing with MDN as well. MDN, I think you all have come across MDN, Mozilla Web Docs. And it has a really good documentation. If you want to learn JavaScript, that is the place to go. Whenever you want to search for some particular language feature or browser web API, just search in MDN, query for MDN. Basically, when you are Googling with the Google query, just search with the keyword MDN, then you will get an MDN article which explains it very well. And it has a table mentioning all the details of what is supported and what is not. And again, there are features which are supported within browsers, but it's not fully supported, it's partially supported. So you have to keep that also in mind. Because browser vendors, they sometimes support all the things and they sometimes can't support everything. So you have to have conditional fallbacks and other mechanisms to avoid or mitigate all the issues due to those. Okay, so everybody wants to use all these cool new features, right? Like let and all these things, async await, promises, all the nice cool features, because we can't be bothered about checking the browser support all the time about whether this particular feature is available in this browser and so on and so forth. So if you want to use all these features right now, you have to use a preprocessor. Babel is one of them, and with Babel you get a set of language features. Basically, what you can do is with Babel you can simply write your code in latest spec versions, whatever the language features, and afterwards you can transpile it back to whatever the target version you want, whether you want ES 2015 or whether you want ES 5 or something. So then it will do the job for you and convert whatever the code you are writing into that particular spec version's compliant JavaScript. So with Babel, there is something called polyfills. Polyfill is more of a script segment snippet where it will simply emulate the functionality of what is missing in the browsers. Say JavaScript promises. Promises are not supported in all the browsers, but if you are to use it today, then if you use a promise polyfill, it will check whether browser has this particular feature, promises. If not, it will create a promise wrapper uh, functionality uh, and assign it to the same namespace, same classes and so on. So then when you are using it, you can use it as is, like you are using whatever the browser APIs or language whatever the expose things, and you will get it out of the box, like readily available, and you won't even know what is missing and what's not missing. So 4JS is one of the polyfill libraries uh, which is like highly used in most of the applications, and Babel itself has this particular library built into it. So it underneath uses 4JS and polyfill all the features which are not available in the browser. And about Babel and all these things, we will have different sessions covering all the details of build tools, preprocessors, and whatnot. I mean, how it works and what is needed and what you have to keep in mind when you're using them. And now comes the question of who is using, maintaining this specification. Now we have a spec, right? Who is the mastermind behind this spec? Is there a single person who is managing all these things? He is the guru saying, okay, this is the feature for the next release, this is the feature for the next spec. There is no such thing. JavaScript spec itself is managed by community. You can propose a feature for JavaScript specification, next spec. Even I can, and anybody over here can do that. So there is a community group called TC39, actual Git repo group called TC39, and under that it has a set of sub repos, and within ECMA 262 repo, that is the ECMAScript version, actual base version of ECMAScript. So within that, it has all the proposed features, whatever the finished features, and inactive proposals and so on. So here, if you visit this particular site, it has a set of MDs which explains the language, what all features are available, and what is proposed. And you can go on and submit your own proposal, and people over there will review it. If they think that, okay, this is something cool which we should implement in the next spec, they will include in the next spec, and they have a set of iterations to go through all these things and think of what will break by introducing this. Because recently they introduced this array keyword flat map, right? Flat map and map. So before introducing that, they had to think about all the existing sites as well, because there are the problem was even before polyfills, there were a whole lot of libraries who used to use these particular functionalities like array map and flat map before even they arrived in the language specification by polyfilling them within the library itself. So due to that, what happened was, now if they release this feature in the spec itself, and if they roll it out, whatever the existing sites, the function which they have been exposed, they have exposed, or what they are using has a slightly different signature. So this, when the signature breaks, whatever the arguments which you are getting to the function is different, and it won't work the same way as it does. So because of that, they were thinking of having a different name and so on, and they have a whole lot of back and forth discussions. So you can see all these discussions, comments, how it works and everything. So this is something which you should check if you are interested about the language. And about HTML and CSS, we have the same thing for CSS and HTML as well. these are the spec links for CSS and HTML, where you can find all the details about those. All right, and finally, we have created a document with all the sessions which we are planning to conduct, and this particular link has all the sessions. We will share the link again in an email. So the idea is, as we explained in the initial session, we want you all to present in these sessions like I did. So anybody can take up a session and they can do the session. We will all help you and guide you on how to create the slides and what all content you should include in a particular session. So I will just show you the uh, document just to give you an idea what is there. Okay, so this document has all the sessions what we are planning to do. There are a whole lot of sessions, and this includes not only JavaScript, HTML, CSS, all the libraries related things and whatnot. So I took the first session, and likewise, what we are trying to do is we want to get you all to present here. So once after sharing, if you can take up one of these sessions, don't be scared about like what content should go on and what you should include. We will share all the details and what you have to do. So first of all, we'll take volunteers. Whoever likes to present here can put your name over here, and afterwards we'll get these sessions prioritized and we will plan the next set of sessions like that. So are we all good? All right. So I guess you all will present here. Who wants to present next? Any volunteers? Okay, you can personal message me if you would like to present next. Okay, we'll wrap up the session, and other thing I want to highlight is next session onwards we won't drag this for 1 hour. Our plan is to have this for 20 minutes. So going forward, every session will cut off by will be planned for 20 minutes, and we will try to finish it at most within 30 minutes. Okay, thanks.